that persists in Washington, D.C. after this bruising, grueling campaign. And the question is whether there's enough political capital, enough political will in Washington, D.C. after this election, no matter who wins, to try to actually get something done.
Mark, I'm curious, did it seem to you and did it seem to the pundits and to the reporters that before James Comey sent that letter to Congress that the map, the down-ballot map, was looking a little bit more favorable than it is today for Democrats?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first Comey letter certainly slowed whatever momentum, whatever narrative Hillary Clinton had about it being, a fairly decisive victory. The numbers moved pretty quickly after that. The sort of unannouncement of the last couple of days didn't seem to have much bearing on it. But, yeah, I mean, I think people, especially if Trump wins, will point to the Comey letter, the first Comey letter, as extremely decisive in this race. And also very sort of tone-setting. I think, look, it sort of reawakened all kinds of notions of rigged and got a lot of grievance going on both sides, which I think is going to be an important story as soon as a winner is declared after, hopefully, tonight.
How has the perception of the U.S. Justice Department and the FBI changed with this election?
Well, I think every institution in America has suffered because of this election. Both major parties, the media certainly, the FBI, the Justice Department. I mean, going into this election, 18 months ago, I mean, there was a great deal of distrust in institutions to begin with. This has put it, 10 times, I think, lower. And I think one of the most interesting things we're going to see tonight is the tenor of the two candidates when they either concede, give a victory speech, what kind of conversation, if any, there is, if there's a concession at all. Because usually that's sort of atmospheric, but I do think that the level of healing, if that's the right word, is actually very important going forward, and I think that the tenor of that will be set tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people feel that the concession speech is usually what legitimizes the next president of the United States by saying, look, it's been a hard-fought battle, but now you're the winner, I congratulate you, and I'll do anything as an American. Forget what political party I happen to be in. I'll do anything as an American to ensure that you're successful in leading the country. I'm curious, Steve, when you see the Comey letter, the first one that went out 10, 11 days ago, there were a lot, politics aside, there were a lot of Republicans that also sort of had a problem with what Director Comey did.
A remarkable number of former Justice Department officials from the Bush administration came forward and said that James Comey was clearly violating established practices and principles within the Department of Justice. But it's interesting to talk about, a conciliatory tone that we hope the loser might strike tonight. A lot has been made of what Donald Trump might say. What if Hillary Clinton loses? And what if her supporters are in the loss column? Are those expectations the same? And I don't think it's an easy answer in any direction. You will have a 50-50 country, no matter what, I think it's fair to say.
Right. And
so what has to happen, though, I think we can all agree, is that there has to be some kind of healing. It just has to happen.
In the 2000 campaign, Mark, there was talk about how when Bill Clinton handed over office to George W. Bush, they had removed the W's from the keypad in the White House and all the computers.
Right.
How does the tone change in Washington, no matter who takes over?
Well, I mean, whoever the new president is has a very, very tough road to hoe. I mean, it's not going to be fun to lose this election. Obviously, it never is. It's not going to be a lot of fun to win this election. It might be fun tonight for the next few days. The W thing, I want to say, perhaps overstated a little bit. It's unclear, whether
if it
what
really
actually.
Happened.
Well,
yes,
I mean,
right.
You get mixed reports on that. But I do think, look, I mean, John McCain, Al Gore, you could argue that their finest moments in their losing campaigns came in their concession speeches. They both gave speeches that have been quoted in the last few weeks quite a bit just because of their graciousness. I think, again, I think bringing the country together is a really tall order at this point. But people remember this kind of stuff. I mean, yes, there's a lot of lore around, how transitions work, whether President Bush got along with President Clinton and so forth. But look, this is when tens of millions of people are tuning in, not to mention around the world. I mean, America has taken a serious hit around the world as far as our reputation for actually running grown-up elections, for some level of stability in these things. And people will watch to see, how this plays out and whether there's any closure here to be had that people can cling to.
And Steve, as Mark points out, whoever wins this election tonight is going to have a difficult road at governing. But I wonder, for the Republican Party, which to many people appears to be a little bit more fractured than the Democrats at this point, even if Hillary Clinton loses, what's next for them? I mean, are we literally talking about, and again, I'm not speculating on who will win, but if Hillary Clinton does do very well with the Electoral College, could we see a fracturing of the Republican Party as we know? And I know people have said it already looks fractured, but an actual split between the movement that Donald Trump created and perhaps others like the Paul Ryans, the Mitt Romneys.
You'd have to talk to historians for them to make direct comparisons to things that we may have seen in the 18th or 19th century in the way that political parties are fractured as a result of this kind of difference that exists. But I think even if Donald Trump wins, you're going to have that fracturing. And the question is, what's the political future of people like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell?
Right.
And where is the political leadership in Washington? And what are the ramifications of the fact that Paul Ryan has, in this campaign, distanced himself from his party's nominee? You have a number of Republicans in the House of Representatives who will return the first week in January who are saying now that they will not support Paul Ryan for Speaker because he didn't support the nominee.
Which is fascinating because he rose to prominence as a model of what the Republican Party wanted to look like going forward into the 21st century.
Less than a year ago.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to, though. I think we shouldn't overstate the divisions that could exist in the Democratic Party. I think they were laid out pretty strongly during this primary campaign. I mean, Hillary Clinton was supposed to have a cakewalk to the nomination. Bernie Sanders was obviously an unlikely point of resistance. Elizabeth Warren didn't run. And I think for both parties, not only are there going to be a division between Red America and Blue America, Trump America and Clinton America, there's going to be a division in both parties that I think a big reckoning is going to be a big part of the next year.
And I think Mark is absolutely right to note the extent to which Michelle Obama just last night on Independence Mall was saying, this is not a time for a protest vote. She was talking to millennial voters who are a big part of this Clinton coalition. The campaign needs to activate them today, get them out to the polls in places like Pennsylvania and Michigan.
All right. Mark Leibovich, Stephen Portnoy, always great to talk to you. Fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for your analysis and reporting. All right, we're going to be moving on now as we wait for the polls to close. One state that could determine the presidency is Pennsylvania, with its 20 electoral votes. The state has gone Democratic in every presidential election since 1992, but this year it appears to be up for grabs if you listen to the Trump campaign. Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey is in Pennsylvania, and